Prince Harry is embarking on what I believe is the most kamikaze court case in the history of Britain. On Monday, he will attempt to bring down the Daily Mail newspaper, now the biggest and most important newspaper in Britain. Historically one of the most famous newspapers in the world, with a footprint that is vast because it includes the Daily Mail website, which is now making waves in the United States, and he is relying on a cabal of criminals, of phone hackers, of drunks, of, let me tell you, the most nasty people in the world, and a slippery, slimy lawyer who's got his claws into Elton John and David Furnish to try and bring down this newspaper, which insists that it has never hacked a phone. So Tom Sykes, the scene is set. Harry's reputation is on the line. And remember, I know the people involved. I know the people involved on his side. The byline Times people, and Harry is now relying on criminals to try and bring down the Daily Mail. Is this going to explode in his face? And if it does, can he ever be trusted again? We are on a mission to 700,000 subscribers. So, I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet. And it is the best way to support Outspoken. We're totally independent, by the way. No big tech backing, no billionaires pulling the strings. And if you turn on the bell, you'll get alerted to all our new videos, yeah. So this case kicks off on Monday. There's actually a pre-trial hearing going on at the moment. I haven't actually gone to it because they tend to be quiet, but I'm told by sources that basically it's consisted of the judge, Justice Nicholan, are just really losing his rag with David Shearborn, who's this kind of permit lawyer who's made millions out of representing Harry in all these cases. And the judge is clearly not impressed. Nichkin is clearly not impressed with Shearborn, as Emma Imiem told has been less than complimentary about his preparation for the case. And it's not hard to see why, because as you say, Harry, the key three people that Harry has been relying on are M. Gavin Burrows, M. Graham Johnson, and remind me of the third person's name. I can't quite escape me. Yes. But the most relevant of these, right, is Gavin Burrows. Okay. And Gavin Burrows gave a very lengthy witness statement saying that all kinds of things that he'd done on behalf of the Daily Mail, that even to the extent of that he'd accessed records that he'd given to the Daily Mail and then shared with the police. It's fantasy kind of stuff to me. It seems like absolutely unbelievable. And then guess what? He turned around and said that the entire statement was a forgery and that his signature on the statement was a forgery. Now, Shearborn has tried to sort of say, oh, well, actually, this is his using this to try and undermine us and blah blah. But it's completely that the case is a complete sort of mess. Anyway, now we all know that Harry hates the Daily Mail, right? And I'm sure that Harry would love nothing better. Like if Harry wins the case, And who knows, you can talk to any lawyer in the world. You can have the best case or the worst case. It's a mystery what happens in there. Both sides think they have a strong case to win. Neither side is interested in settling, I'm told, but they always say that, but whether they will settle on the steps, they could do. But if the Mail loses this potential abangos the Telegraph bid, that's just for starters, Where does it leave Harmsworthy and does it leave Paul Diaz knighthood not suggest potential criminal investigations? 'Cause remember, that's what Harry desperately wants. He wants people locked up after the civil case win versus the Daily Mirror. He suggested that there should be a police investigation into Piers Morgan. And the other person I think that you were referring to is Glenn Muller, who of course did go to jail. He was one of the key phone hackers in the News of the World case who was jailed alongside Andy Coulson. So, it's messy, but people are going to be interested in this case and it will get international attention, because I should just run everyone through who the co-defendants are, Tom, because we are talking huge names. Obviously, Elton John, pretty much biggest music star in the world, David Furnish's husband, Elizabeth Hurley, very very famous, including in America. Sadie Frost, maybe less so now as an actress but very well known. And then you've got Baroness Doreen Lawrence and Sir Simon Hughes. Maybe not household names, but Doreen Lawrence, of course, previously very close with the Daily Mail, who led the investigation into the death of her son. So, woke ITV News, which I always say is very much firmly in the Team Harry and Meghan case, they provided a curtain raiser of this case and have spoken to Doreen Lawrence, who is furious that there hasn't been a settlement. So clearly in her mind, she didn't actually want this to go to court at all. What she wanted was a big fat check. Watch this. Harry is heading back to court with a glittering supporting cast, each in a legal battle with what is arguably Britain's most influential news title, but perhaps the most dramatic evidence will come from fellow claimant Doreen Lawrence more than 30 years after the racist murder of her son. The Mail famously championed her cause, but she claims the paper was also targeting her, tapping and hacking her phone, paying police officers for information. She says she feels betrayed. The Mail denies their allegations. But ahead of the trial, her lawyers have told ITV News Baroness Lawrence is disappointed that the Daily Mail has yet to accept and apologise for its intrusion on her privacy and has forced her to go to trial. She had hoped that the Daily Mail would not have wanted her to endure the obvious stress of litigation given what she has gone through and continues to go through. Well, no, that's not how it works, is it? I mean, it's how people try and use the court, force people into settlements over things that aren't true just to avoid the embarrassment. But the Mail absolutely denying the claims, which does mean, you never know, sometimes there is a morning of settlement. We saw that in Harry's case versus News UK, which by the way I was preparing to testify at and had gone through all of my preparation to testify, and then the case was actually settled on the morning evidence was due to begin. But according to what them telling ITV News at the moment, no settlement. Watch the Mail contests the claims with vigour. Its publisher, Associated Newspapers, told us from day one, Associated has always described these allegations as preposterous. Since then, the claimant's two main potential witnesses have retracted their claims against Associated. 14 years ago, the Daily Mail on oath told the Leave a Sun inquiry that it did not hack phones. We stand by that today. So, Tom, I think there's going to be a huge moment on Monday, isn't there? On Monday morning, does the case actually begin? Is Prince Harry there in court? If so, it's game on. It becomes a lot harder to settle once you've actually begun. And even at this point, I think Justice Nicole would be furious if there was a last-minute settlement. Certainly in terms of the News UK case, he was really unhappy that it came right down to the wire, yeah. And I mean, what I'm told by insiders at the Mail is that the Mail are how it was described to me are very hurt by Baroness Lawrence turning against them. They have tried to explain to her that they believe that she is being manipulated. And they point out that they went into bat for her the horrific racist murder of her son and with that famous front page murderers. If we are wrong, let them sue. And I am told that there is absolutely no appetite on the Daily Mail side to settle unless the other side drop the case. But the other side can now no longer afford to drop the case because the bills are approaching £37 million already, about 50 million US. So, everybody has got themselves into a hell of a mess with this, where they've reached the stage where it's so bad that they're going to all these people, it's going to cost so much money. There are rumours that there's some sort of max mostly money and funding some of it. But as the bottom line is that these shady witnesses who are being used to gather the evidence on Harry and on the claimant side are clearly using the exact same tactics that the tabloids that they accuse the tabloids of using. So, at what point can you really take someone who you're saying is a really untrusty, shady criminal, been to jail, phone hacker, blah, 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 and say, oh, actually now we believe everything they say? We've seen it all before, right? We've seen it with, Dan Evans and all these kind of, people who suddenly miraculously turned from, on the court steps turned from poachers into gamekeepers. And I just think that it's these are scumbag human beings. And here's the thing, Tom. I know you've worked a lot of newspapers. So Harvey and I've worked at these newspapers in question. The Sun, the News of the World, the Daily Mail. You do not have to break the law to do good journalism. You didn't have to break the law to do good journalism. I never used a private investigator, never hacked a phone, gave evidence in the Leave a Sun inquiry that you can go and read online right now to make that point. So, these people are criminals. They are scumbags and they can try and say as much as they want, oh, Murdoch forced me into it or my editors forced me into it or whatever. But they were the individuals breaking the law and they got caught. And the fact that they have been given this second opportunity to make a whole load of money, to do a whole load of deals because of Prince Harry, I find it completely bizarre and very, very odd. But Harry has this lust for revenge and he tried it with me and he failed because it simply wasn't true. This is the problem. A lot of what these criminals were telling him about me I know for a fact were not true. But she got convinced that it must be true. So he launched this legal action about where I got the Mexit story from and it just wasn't true. So he had to withdraw it. But I think the same thing has happened here. Now, Tom, if we actually look forward to next week, it is Thursday that Harry is scheduled to give evidence to actually testify in the witness box. Now, I know it's happened during the Mirror case, but we can't underestimate what a significant moment this will be. Someone who remained so high up in the line of succession. Someone who, I'm just going to be frank about it, Tom, has a track record of lying. The Daily Mail barristers are going to be absolutely desperate to trip him up. I mean, how significant could this moment be? But first, do you remember when you could bounce back without even thinking about it? You'd push hard, sleep it off, and you were fine. Now, it can feel like your body files a complaint after a long week, a tough workout, a disrupted night's sleep, even just traveling. And recovery takes longer than you'd like. Here's the interesting part. That bounce back isn't just willpower. It's biology. Turns out the secret to healing, recovery, and resilience isn't just luck. It's stem cells. These are your body's built-in repair crew. But as we age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. This is exactly why qualia stem cell was created. Think of it like this. Your body has a renewal system running in the background. And qualia stem cell is designed to support that system so it can keep doing what it's built to do. It's a science-backed formula crafted with well-researched ingredients, including nature's heavy hitters like sea buckthorn and royal jelly to help support your body's natural repair signals so you can keep moving, recovering, and thriving. And it's refreshingly practical. You only take it 4 days a month. A simple monthly routine aimed at supporting your body's regenerative capacity over time. So, if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Polystem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And check this out right now. You can try it for up to 50% off at chualia.com/Dan. And here's a bonus. Use the code DANDIAN for an additional 15% off your order. That's chualialife.com/Dan. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do it that better. And a big thanks by the way to Qualia for sponsoring this episode of Outspoken. And now let's get back to the show. I think it could be hugely significant. Obviously the Daily Mail's KC are exceptionally intelligent, experienced inquisitors. Harry, I think even his greatest supporters would not claim you miss a great academic brain. Trying to deal with the press, which is to PR the hell out of it to take people out for lunch. And they clearly are doing that. And the thing is, Tom, it's actually worked with the Sun. You know, that the Sun's pretty on board these days with Harry and Meghan. I mean, running a lot of their nonsense propaganda, and it's like, yeah, exactly. Maybe this war was a terrible idea. Look, 2 big royal books I want to speak to you about. First, William and Catherine. This has just been announced by the Daily Mirror. First joint biography in over a decade written by the Mirror's royal editor Russell Mayers. Now look, he's very much in the royal rote. So, do we assume, Tom, that this is going to be a favourable soft look at the life of William and Catherine, or do we know if Kensington Palace has worked with him, collaborated, because of course they do have a close working relationship and Hayes promising new revelations? Well, I think what's really going to be interesting when this book comes out is to what extent is there briefing against Harry and Meghan in the book. I mean, I think we all know what the pothy and I think we all know what the intimate inside story of William and Kate is going to be. I think it's going to be they're lovely and they have a beautiful marriage and they look after their kids, right? And these two terrible, terrible cretins, yeah. And like Russ Russell's great, he's a good reporter, he's worked at the Mirror for years, I don't think anyone would dispute that he is a consummate professional, and I'm sure the book would be highly readable and I'm sure it would be very entertaining and a really fun read for especially for fans of William and Catherine, of which there are many. And what I think politically do KP go there in briefing against Harry and Meghan for the book? That's the only thing really that would be particularly of interest to me at this stage speculatively now. He may have some massive bombshell in there, oh yeah. I mean, I guess it's going to be interesting to see if they have assisted at all in terms of Catherine's cancer battle, too. How was William told? Do we know the circumstances behind him pulling out of the memorial service? There are still some gaps in our knowledge. And in terms of that, look, fundamentally, the huge question is what was actually wrong with Catherine? Because Emma's, as anyone will recall at the time, and what one for example, I did a story about this the Daily Beast, was that the Royal Rosa reported that she had precancerous cells. Now after I did the story that was deleted, I think it was Sky News who had it up, and when Mystery actually came out they deleted it. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that Catherine wasn't really ill and it wasn't really scary, but there have been I think it would be really interesting if we knew exactly what was wrong with her. I don't think that they will tell us. And I don't think they're going to tell Russell Mears, and I don't think if Russell Mears knew, he would write it. But that is the big sort of unresolved story about the whole Catherine cancer story, which I think is really interesting. And I think there was a lot of mixed messaging at the time about was this preventative chemistry, she had surgery for abdominal pain and then they removed the cancer was present was the term that they used, yet it seemed to be completely removed in heart operation and then it was preventative chemotherapy. So what actually happened there? If it's long been rumored that there was other pressures going on behind the scenes. Now, if there was information about that genuinely would be a bombshell. Yeah, I would be surprised. I would be surprised. I think you're right. I will be surprised. Yeah, I think the main thing to look for, I totally agree, is how much briefing is there against Harry and Meghan, which I think we can safely assume will have come from Kensington Palace. But we know that area is fraught with risk given the criticism of the Sussexes for collaborating with Omar Scobie when they were still in the royal family. This one may be even more interesting though. It's Andrew Lyer scoop from his Substack, and remember he's just written the book entitled Which Caused really the final defenestration of Andrew from the British royal family, and Andrew reporting that he is considering a mire that would paint him as a victim of Me Too and wokeness. Now, it was actually AOL that first quoted a palace aide saying, at its core, this is a financial problem for Andrew. His liabilities are mounting, legal costs have not eased, and there is little willingness within the family to step in. And Lie says the briefing feels more like a threat to get what he wants out of any forthcoming deal, and mirrors similar hints emerging from Sarah Ferguson's camp that she is considering a book as well. He goes on, I find it hard to believe that Andrew has any money troubles. It's more likely that the parallel here is the Duke of Windsor. As I wrote in the Traitor King, Hair pled poverty to so he could get a bigger allowance when in fact he had the modern equivalent of many millions of pounds stashed away. Questions also need to be asked about what happened to the £4 million raised when Ferguson sold her Belgravia Mews house. Few would feel the cold hand of poverty with such a son, and it's likely proof that claims of penury from the former Duchess are also overblown. Given that Fergie has already written 2 memoirs, most recently in 2011, it's hard to think what she has to add, given the only notable thing that has happened to her in the intervening years was well-established friendship and financial links, the most notorious sex offender of the 21st century. A further source is quoted as saying, Andrew feels deeply wronged by how events have unfolded. He is fully convinced that public opinion would soften if his version of the story were fully aired. And he wants to cast himself as someone who was misled and ultimately betrayed. As I learned researching and writing entitled, there is almost no limit to Andrew's delusions about his status and reputation. That he was delighted with how the disastrous Newsnight interview went, just one example of how much his complete lack of awareness can and does get him into. A memoir by Andrew painting himself as a victim would not just stretch credibility to breaking point. It would also be incredibly offensive to the actual victim of Jeffrey Epstein, given that he has consistently refused to help US authorities or Congress with their inquiries. Now, this one is interesting to me, Tom, because I have always been told by sources close to Andrew, but of course, a lot can change very quickly, and a lot has changed very quickly, that he was resolutely opposed to writing a book or a memoir, and they had always reassured the king that that is something he would never do. What do you reckon? I think, as Andrew says, I think Andrew Looney says, I think it's a threat to try and get a better deal. To be totally honest, I think the deal Andrew got initially was pretty good. I've been told that he's got a pension of well over $100,000 a year. That of course is worth millions. He's got his lovely new house which is being fully refurbished for him up in Sandringham. He's got staff at that house. He's keeping his police protection. I sort of feel like the negotiation has been done. I think that I actually slightly disagree with Andrew Looney in that I think that Sarah Ferguson could write an amazing book because like the ones that she did before, I think that she, politically she had her eye on getting back in with the royals and she always knew what side her bread was buttered. Right now it's pretty clear there's no butter going around at all. And I think that actually if you look at what I've been told plenty of hints that Sarah is thinking about writing a book, and that is the book that frankly I would like to read. The ringside seat at the Diana, it would make what Harry and Meghan have to say, her history of conflict with Prince Philip, like the allegations that Philip was recording her phone call. There is so much stuff there from Sarah. I think that if she were to write a book, it would be and if she would just go to hell with it. I've had it with all of you. You've completely abandoned us and treated us terribly, and I don't care. Like, it would be an amazing book. But I don't think she's not going to do it, is it? Because I think they're using the leverage of the children. Yeah. Exactly. Beatrice and Eugene, we have tour member and just finally Tom, all of these moving vans showing up soon. It looks like there is preparation going on finally at Sandringham. So Swahi going to be out as the Sun is reporting before his 66th birthday? Is that your understanding? I think how you can tell that this is real and that he is going to be arthritis that hang on, let me just find the quote. Absolutely brilliant to the Sun. He's finally decided he needs to get on with his life, and so he's moving out sooner than thought and starting afresh by the end of the month, or at least before his birthday in FE. It's the kind of giveaway that it is actually happening, isn't it, when Andrew goes, actually I've decided for the good of my family and my personal wellness. I've decided to move out of my house, yeah, he's gone. He's on the move. He's gone. And I suspect he was told get going. Maybe an extra inducement was unprovided, but I think that him being at Royal Lodge is not really serving anyone anymore. It's not the kids don't want to visit him there because they don't want to be photographed driving in. Like he's got almost no contact with the children. His friends don't want to come there because they don't want to be photographed driving in at Marsh Farm. The key thing, very funny, some photographs showing enormous hoardings being erected throughout the entire house and the Sky TV satellite critically. Oh God. You think that was do you remember in private Sky, where they always had Murdoch papers putting in gratuitous Sky TV has no Sky TV, although the Sun no longer has a commercial connection with Sky, does it? So I guess there would be no commercial motivation for them to do that. But look, muscle memory, yes, we will keep across it. And are you going to be reporting on the case for the royalist? Yeah. I'm going to. I've applied. So they haven't done the allocation yet. And they're doing they're doing an overflow room, or I think actually in the end they've decided to just let us watch it remotely because I think there were too many people for an overflow room. So okay. Well, that's going to be fascinating. Make sure you are subscribed to the Royalist on Substack for what is going to be, look, it's a long case. Let's just say it's a long case, 9 weeks, but if indeed Harry does take the stand next week, he's going to be very sanal. So make sure you subscribe to the Royalist, yes, on Thursday, and apparently he's going to be there Monday, Tuesday, and then apparently on Thursday, apparently in the stands. I don't think it's confirmed yet when his evidence, no. I guess I tends if anything overruns, but it's looking likely. Okay, well, great stuff. We will be across at Tom reading the Royalist and of course covering it here on Outspoken To. So, thank you so much and we will speak very soon. And of course, if you do want to subscribe to our Royal Unsold After Show, you can go to www.outspoken.live. Paid monthly or annual subscribers get first access to everything that we do, our live or on demand, whichever you prefer, and you can visit at www.outspoken.live. Dan Wilson. Outspoken is your no spin, no bias, no censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So, please hit subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to Dan and Outspoken on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's totally free, but allows me to continue my promise to always keep fighting for you.